lovely people, it's your favorite pretend guitar player, Dorian Crutcher. Welcome to another episode of Blockheads. In this week's episode, I'm going to teach you guys how to make the voting app we made in episode 1 of Blockheads. Sit tight, guys, and get ready to have some fun. So here we have the application that I made at the end of Blockheads episode 1, where I figured out how to make a voting app that runs on blockchain. We can see that we can log in, we can log out. So I'm going to log in as, I'm going to use the blockshop.testnet account. If you haven't seen the video, I encourage you guys to check it out. It's a lot of fun. And here in the application, we have like 2 windows here, each with their own candidate, as well as a window for the voting topic or the topic we're voting on. We have 1 window for Leslie, 1 window for Ron, their voting buttons, and then their respective descriptions as to what they stand for. So Leslie stands for waffles, Ron stands to undermine the government and probably meat.
I've been quite open about this around the office. I don't want this parks department to build any parks because I don't believe in government.
So I open up the inspection tool. You can see the console here. I'm logged in under the blockshop.testnet wallet account. I'm going to send my vote for, let's do Leslie. We can see Leslie's vote count. We can see we have a little cute message saying thank you for voting. And if we refresh the page, we can see the total number of votes that each candidate has, as well as the voting buttons themselves getting grayed out. If I were to retry the voting buttons earlier, we would see a message saying that you've already voted, so it was able to actually know that this account has already cast a vote and can no longer recast another vote. But I think this application is cool. I think it's awesome that it functions on blockchain, but I think we can make some improvements to it, to the functionality, the visuals. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a much cleaner looking version of this application to add to your portfolio. So stick around. Hello, lovely people. So here I have open VS Code, but before we get started with the coding, I want you to go over to Node.js and install the 12.8.4 LTS. It might be update, it might be a different version of Node.js by the time you watch this video. But for now, just install this version. Don't install this current version because this version is more stable. We're also going to be dealing with React Bootstrap, but we can install that in a minute. We're also going to be working with the Create Near app, and we're going to install this right now. So after you install Node.js, read through this document here. I'm going to put a link in the description.
1 eternity later.
But for now, I want you to run npm sudo, if you're on Mac, npm install create near app -g to make it global. It's loading, it's loading. See, I already have this installed, but it's still just going to take a minute.
2 hours later.
Then what I want you to do is run create near app --frontend is equal to React. If you don't put this, it will default to vanilla.js, and then the name of our project, I'm after this. So Blockheads vote. So just call it that. It's fine. Everything's fine. Cool. I'm assuming you all know React. Jumping into this video, I'm also going to assume that you're familiar with Sass, because I'm using Sass for this video to interact with React's Bootstrap. And you also need to know TypeScript and AssemblyScript. Well, which is a dialect of TypeScript to make this application work. But as usual, what I'm going to say here is, if you're new to this and you're just jumping in, I encourage you guys to read through all the comments, kind of get used to the setup of Create Near App and what the template provides you. Be sure to navigate into your application folder. So CD Blockheads vote or Blockhead vote, and then type in yarn dev. It'll take a minute.
6.5 hours later.
The app is starting. After you run yarn dev, you're going to see this window appear showing the demo application. Don't worry about the sign-in function just yet. We're going to get to that in a minute after the cleanup. But you know, actually, let's just jump right into here. Let's see what sign-in has to do. So sign-in will take you to your Near wallet. If you don't have a wallet already, just create a new one. And simply follow the on-screen instructions. So just put in whatever name you want. So we can just put in Bob, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go through the on-screen instructions, so your phone recovery. Make sure you put the, here we go, right there. After you create your wallet, you're going to see your username here, and the application we run, the demo application that we opened, is requesting access to your account. So you're going to hit allow, and then you see yourself signed in, so you know it works. You're going to use your near wallet later, so it's important that we went through this process so we can have our account ready for our voting application. So now let's go into the cleanup. It's going to be a bunch of stuff we just don't need. So you don't need all of this. Like I said, be sure to read through all this. It's actually really good and really helpful, but you don't need it for now. Go up here, hit delete, add a closing tag, add the return statement. Inside the return statement, let's just put p tag and say hello world for now. Hit save, go back, you see hello world, so that's good. Go into the global.css, copy everything, delete it, put in body, put margin 0, padding 0. That's good for now. Cool, everything's good. Go into go into utils.js. So we're going to keep these two functions, so log in and log out. That will actually be, they're very self-explanatory. They're going to help us log into our wallet and log out of our wallet account. Get rid of these functions within the change and view method arrays. And also I want you to get rid of, where is it? Oh, it's not here. Init contract. Okay, whatever. Yeah, that's all you really need. Okay, so log in, log out, go to main.ts, get rid of these functions here, just everything except for that import statement. Hit save, go here, hit save, and go here, hit save. We're in a pretty good spot, pretty ready to go. So now we have the create new app boilerplate cleaned up. Let's go over to React Bootstrap's main website, and we need to click on Get Started. So Get Started. Copy this line here. Go over to VS Code, hit Command J, Control J, or whatever. It opens up your terminal, so open up a new terminal. Hit Control C to stop the local host from running. Oh, it can't. Can you paste it in? Yeah, you can. Okay. No, you can't do that. No, you can. Cool. So paste in this line into your terminal and run npm install React Bootstrap. Just wait a minute while it installs. I've actually installed on this, so it's actually pretty realistic.
One eternity later.
The terminal's always always mystifying. It's like watching actual code running, but I mean, I don't know, it's just like a very like standard process in the world of coding, I guess. I should have like a Blockheads like npm installation chat, just like a powwow over installations. Like, how are you? Okay, so there we go. The installation's done. So you have React Bootstrap inside your Node modules folder. If the copy and pasting has worked, just type it in. To verify that it worked, or actually, next step will be, jumping ahead. Next step will be to create a folder called SCSS. Inside that folder, create a new file called appstyles.scss. We're using Sass to style our components. And something that I want you guys to install, we probably should have gone over this a little bit earlier, but I want you to install Live SAS Compiler. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do to actually run and compile our SAS as we go through making design modifications. Once you do that, type in SAS into your settings search bar in VS Code, and let's see, select Live SAS Compiler. Go down to where it says set your exported CSS styles, formats, and save location. Inside and on this line, I want you to copy that save path. So I'll create a new file called CSS where the SAS will then compile to CSS and automatically save and as we update the SAS files, so we don't have to worry about the CSS file itself. So just copy this line here and you should be good to go. Now we have our app styles.scss. We're going to go back and we will copy this line under SAS. So copy the import line here, the import statement here. Paste it on your first line inside your app styles.scss folder. Hit save. Don't worry, this one's not going to actually create a CSS file just yet, so that's fine if you don't have one, because I'm not going to have one just yet. We're going to actually import the app styles file we've created. So app styles.scss. Hit save. And to make sure that everything's like running, it's okay, we have to restart the server first. I'm going to type in yarn dev build error. If you get that build error notification, try running npm install once more inside of your application, inside the terminal. Because sometimes I get that, and I think it's usually I found that this is a good way to kind of like refresh it and fix it. I should just like crop life a bit so I can fast forward to the part where the download is done. Let's run yarn dev. Cool. Okay, so no complaints. So that's good. Let's take one of the examples of the thing we're actually going to make next, the nav bar anyway. So let's go to nav bar. Scroll all the way down. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go. Scroll down to it says responsive behaviors, then just copy this example here. So copy, and just place that right here over hello world, paste. We're gonna have to import a few things, so let's import nav bar and also import nav and nav drop down. We're not going to use all of these in our final application, but I just want to see the example work. From React Bootstrap. Hit save. Okay. Go back to the application. Delete this old one. But look at that. We have a functioning React nav bar from React Bootstrap. So now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty of things, the thing I'm pretty sure you guys are here for, the actual part where we get to communicate with a near blockchain by making contract calls and writing contract code. So, I mean, let's just jump right in. So right off the bat, I think what I want to do is I want to make a place for the voters to keep track of the I guess like the subjects they voted for. So once they cast their ballot, they can't vote again on that same subject. So let's do this. Let's call it voters reg. So voters registration is equal to a new persistent map. And let's see, in this new persistent map, we're going to have, let's do this, have a string as the key and a i32 as the i32 array as the variable, and we're going to call this voters reg. So I'm pretty sure this is like all super confusing right off the bat, but don't be too freaked out. This is just a map. It's like a dictionary in Python, in other words. all we're doing is, this is a data structure that will have a key value pair. So we call it the key, we get the value. In this case, the value is an array, and this array will hold vote subject IDs. This little tag here is just a unique identifier for this data collection, so that there are no data collisions within this contract. So let's keep going. We're gonna create our function, so export function. Let's call it add vote. So we're gonna have to make another thing to actually keep track of the candidates' numbers too. So why not do that right now actually? So let's call this let candidate reg equal to new persistent map string I32 candidate reg. This is essentially same thing, key value pair, except that instead of holding an array, it's just holding a single value that we can add to and change. In other words, it's just going to be a place where we can actually count the votes for the candidates. So add vote, we're going to say vote ID, and let's also call candidate. So vote ID will be a string. I'm sorry, a number. So I32. And candidate will be a string. So again, this is all in assembly script and TypeScript. So if you're not familiar with this, I definitely recommend watching some videos I'll put in the description for you guys. Essentially, near contracts are all written in either assembly script or Rust. Assembly script is essentially TypeScript. I'm choosing assembly script because it's rather close to JavaScript, so it's not too much of a leap, just in case we have done it before. But continuing forward, I think what I want to do for now is let's just return the I32 array. So this is shorthand just for array. This can also be like, like array I32. It's the same thing, but right now I'm just doing it this way. So now we're going to say if, this is where it kind of gets a little bit easier, more JavaScripty. If voters reg dot contains context dot sender. So that simply means, let's see. Context.sender is equal to, I don't know, just put username dot testnet. So that'll just give us back this string that has the username of the person logged into. Continuing forward. This is where things become a little bit more fun. We're going to call in a component. Actually, wait, let's do this. We are going to make a new file folder called components. Inside, we're going to make a file called candidate.js. If you don't have it already, I would recommend installing React.js code snippets by Charles Lampos, some last name that I can't pronounce, but it's right there. It's really good. It allows you to create little templates just like this, so you don't have to manually type out all this stuff here. Hit save. Go back to app.js. I'm going to import. There we go. Import candidate from components candidate. Don't write the JS. Save that. Type in candidate here. In candidate. Make it a self-closing tag. And we can actually copy this, and let's put this here as well. So as of right now, there's nothing in candidates. It's not going to show anything. It's going to be rather blank. That's okay. I want you to go to React Bootstrap and go to the cards section right here. So just type in cards here, and then just click on this very first thing that pops up. We're going to copy over this example because honestly that step is perfect for what we want to do. Let's paste it in here. Let's bring this back. There we go. And now we're going to import, let's see, import card, and we're also going to import a button from React Bootstrap. Hit save, go back to our application. You can see 2 cards here appearing, so that'll be where we'll have our 2 candidates and our submit button. Okay, we are making good progress. So I decided to go ahead and Google pictures of Leslie Knope and Ron Swanson and just kind of choose 2. I downloaded 2, like 2 that look good, that look pretty good to me. And I moved them into my assets folder. So just take your download and drag the image into your assets folder. Once you have your images in the assets folder, go to app.js. Under candidate, just do import. I don't know if it actually necessarily has to be under the candidate, but it's fine. Import, let's do nope. Yeah, nope. From assets, canope.jpg. It's the image I found. I mean, obviously, like, it'd be better if we just, like, if you found a place that hosts these online, like Imager or something, but just for this tutorial, I think it's totally fine. What we're doing. So Ron from /Ron Swanson.jpg. Save. Go down to the candidates component that we make and type in picture as a prop. We're gonna pass in by typing nope. We're passing nope as our first value here. And in the second candidate component, we type in, let's do Ron Swanson. There we go. Inside the candidate component, I will go, if I can move my little face. Oh, there you go. There. Move my little face. Where it says card image here, I want you to get rid of the source, or get rid of like what they already have in the source file, source prop here, and just type in this.props picture. Save. Let's see what happens here. And there you go. I mean, there are your pictures of your candidates. Let's do something else while we're here. Let's center the text here, and let's like just change it up to make it fit our candidates better. So for the card title, we're going to pass in a prop. It's going to say this.props. Oops. Okay, so it's going to pass in JSX this.props.title. For the card text, to just put this, same thing, so curly braces, this.props.description. Here we're gonna, for the button, let's just do, let's call it just vote. We can leave it as primary for now. I also want to go to see the card tag and type in class name. So just add a space in between card and style. Type in class name is equal to quotation marks text align, or is it text center? I'm sorry, text center. There we go. Cool. So buttons in the center. We have no text and we have no title, which is fine because we didn't make that yet. So we get to add our description prop and our title prop. So let's go back to app.js and type in description, and actually just make a variable up here to hold these down for us. So let's just say let Ron, let's do Ron description, and let nope description, and let's make the K lowercase equal to, it's gonna be a string, So we can just say Ron's description is what I had before. I had undermined the government. Undermine the government. Can I spell government? Government. And be a man, which is like Ron's whole masculine thing. So, Nope's description will be parks and waffles for all. And you know what? Let's just put man in all caps. Be a man. There we go. So let's go back to the description. Just call Ron description. Oh no, not speech recognition. There we go. It's kind of cool. Ron description. And for, actually, I think I might have this mixed up. That's be nope description. So nope description. Let's copy this. Place this here. And change this to Ron. And let's also add a title. Here I will say nope. And a title that we will call Ron. Save. Cool. And there you go. There you have, I guess I could just put Leslie. Leslie instead of nope. So let's do, actually full name maybe. So Leslie, nope, and Ron Swanson. If you haven't seen Parks and Rec, I will fully recommend it. This is not endorsed by Parks and Rec, but I do fully recommend it. I love the show.
I came here for the same reason people go to the zoo. Shh. Look at that thing. Nature is amazing.
But yeah, we have our we have our candidate cards. We have our we still have to make our voting subject, and we should also work on the spacing here to kind of bring this away from the nav bar. But we're making pretty good progress. So let's keep going. I noticed I made one little mistake. When I changed the background color of the nav bar to that kind of like off gray thing, I changed it in the CSS file. So like I had this as a, what was it? Hashtag 5C. So that was like that. But I left green as a color in, there we go, the app.scss file, which means when I saved it, it just goes back to green. So you never want to change anything inside of the CSS file itself. You always want to change all your styles in the SCSS folder if you are using this method. You can also just make individual CSS files for all your components, but I kind of like doing it this way better. So in the app.scss file, I'm just going to type in hashtag FC, oops, I'm sorry, 5C. Okay, that was his thing, FC before? That's weird. And now it's back to normal. But while we're on the styling kick, I like that transition. Let's shape up some of these, let's shape up the positions of these two cards. Let's add some margin, some space between the cards and the title block. And let's give this like a background color so we can designate our polling booth. That's what we're going to call that style actually. So let's go into app.js. Let's see. So I have this class name so this class name I just like pasted here, which I'm going to just move. I want you to type that in for every column component that we called earlier as a class name. So class name is equal to, oops, I guess I could just hit paste. Okay, cool. And space apparently, cool. So type in deflex justified content center for all of your columns. What this will do is that it will center all the cards and the voting subject in their respective columns, because right before it becomes more clear with the background color, but before they were just a little bit off to the left. It's most visible with the voting subject. Let's go to the container. call a class name. Let's call this voting booth. Voting booth. Let's go to app.scss. Add a new class called voting booth. This is just like normal CSS. Let's give it a background color. Let's do, I'm going to do hashtag 000 for now. You can change it later. I might even like that, but whatever. So margin top. It's going to margin top about, let's say 10%. Let's see how it looks. And a padding of, let's do about 5%. And let's add a border radius of 5px. Oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, I probably want to do something like other than black, maybe something a little bit lighter. But I think for now, like it's pretty alright. So we can actually just, let's do whatever this is, 58, 58, and let's switch it over to hexadecimal. I like it a little more. Okay, I mean that's something. So yeah, we have a pretty good start to the overall design of our application. Okay, it's good. We're on a roll. So let's keep going. Let's keep this flow going. So we have our voting subject here. It's dark. You can't see it. It's kind of lame looking. So let's fix that. So let's go up here. Type in subject. We're gonna make a subjects component in the components folder. Doesn't exist yet, but we're gonna call it subject. Subject. Go to components. Right, components. Call it subject.js. So normally I would make a SCSS folder, a file to go along with this subjects.js file, but I don't think I need it just yet. So I'm gonna keep going in this fashion. So I'm gonna type in RCC. We're going to switch this over to a function-based component. So subject extends component equals to this. So we're making subject an arrow function. We're going to use some props later. So let's type in props there. Get rid of render. Get rid of this. Get rid of one of the curly braces. Say hello world to see if it works. Go back. Oops, did something happen? We're still running, so subject. Oh, I didn't save app.js. Voting subject. Oh no. What is happening? Oh, okay. And also remember to call subject here. Probably slow down a bit. We get a self-closing tag. There we go. Okay. Hello world, yay! Okay, so we have our hello world, so we know it's working. Let's go back and make it look pretty. So go to subject.js, and I want you to type in import card from React Bootstrap. Oh no, Bootstrap. There we go. And I don't think we need anything else right now. So just type in, get rid of all this. Type in card dot body. Oh, actually, I think you have to do card first, right? So card dot body. Inside this card dot body, we can say hello world. There we go. So we have our little hello world button here, or not button, but text showing us it's exactly working. So let's do class name is equal to text center. Cool. I mean, it was already centered, but I like to make sure it's right there. Let's call in a prop. You say props.subject in curly braces. So props.subject. It's our app.js file. We are going to go to subject, we call in, just type subject here, so subject, but lowercase, uppercase. And then the name of the thing you wanna like vote for, right? So let's just say, whatever. Let's do who's your favorite? Who's your favorite? And there we go. We have our little subjects container. This isn't bad. I like it, but I think I would like it better if the text was in the center of the card. So let's do something a little snazzy. Let's go to card body, type in class name, in quotation marks, type in dflex. That stands for flexbox, or like display flexbox. And then do align items center. Save it. And the text moves to the center of the card. And there we go. We are in a good place. I think we're in a pretty good place. So we can log in, we can log out, we have our cards, we have these nifty buttons that don't do anything yet. Because we're using React Bootstrap, everything we make is pretty responsive. So these cards will just stack on top of each other, squish down. The log button squishes into this little button here. And we can just switch it all the way back out. So that's kind of fun. Now I think would be a good time to go into the blockchain side of things, which I'm pretty sure that's what you're all here for, to be able to actually add voting functionality to ensure that the user can submit their vote, that you can't recast a vote, and that all these votes will be counted and displayed after the user submits their vote. So let's jump in and do that. So we made it. We're finally at the meat of the material, the part I'm sure you guys have been waiting for. Like, how do we interact with the near blockchain? How do we actually add stuff to the blockchain and modify data on it? We're going to do that through contract calls. So just a precursor before we get started, near contract calls are written in TypeScript, or assembly script, which is dialect of TypeScript, and Rust. So if you guys don't know TypeScript, that's okay, because that's TypeScript is what we're going to be using. I'm going to put a link in the description to a pretty good crash course for TypeScript. Again, this is assembly script, but if you know TypeScript, it's essentially the same thing. And I chose assembly script because it's close to JavaScript. So if you're coming from only a JavaScript background but want to know how to utilize near contracts, this won't be too much of a jump for you, just some small syntactical changes. So hang on tight and let's just jump right in. So first what I want to do is I want to create a place that the candidates can keep track of the number of votes they have, and that we can keep track of who's voted and who hasn't, so we can create some logic for that later. So let's say let candidate registration equal to new persistent map. So a persistent map. Let me keep going for a minute. Okay, so persistent map string I32 and give it a unique identifier called candidate registration. So I'm pretty sure this looks totally confusing to everybody, which is, is totally understandable. So let me explain what's actually happening here. So a persistent map is simply just like a Python dictionary or any other hash. You could say it's something that stores a key value pair. So just picture it like, I have some data structure that says that has this key, let's call it key 1. I call key 1 in that data pair, and there's some value that's tied to key 1. So meaning, like, say if I call candidate reg, my key's name will be, in this case, the candidate, so Ron, and then the value that's tied to the key Ron is his number of votes, so let's just say 3. Hopefully that makes sense. It'll make more sense as I go on. I'm going to make another persistent map called let voters reg equal to new persistent map. I don't know why it's not popping up. There we go. string bool. Bool is for Boolean, and oh yeah, and I32 is just a number. It's just, so don't worry about that too much. Voters registration. I have to put these unique identifiers just to avoid data collisions within the blockchain. So just be sure to make something fairly unique. So I'm going to call export function add vote. I have to write export to make it public, and I'll explain where this comes into play a little bit later. We're gonna request the candidate's name. I think that's all we really need. So candidate is a string. So you always have to, in TypeScript, you always have to kind of like tie your parameters to some data type. And I'm going to return, so colon return. So this function will return, let's just say a number, and let's just get the number back, I32. So it gives you this little error here. Don't freak about that yet. It just means like it's not returning a number yet. So if we do like return 2, then that error goes away. So what are we actually going to check for? We're going to check if the voter's registration, or if the candidate. We're going to check for a few things. If we check if the candidate's name is in the candidate's registration. If it's not, we're going to add it. And then we also have to check if the voter's name is also in this registration, meaning that they have voted before. There's a much more dynamic and cool way of doing this, where I wanted to like make like something with vote IDs, so we can tie each unique subject to their own ID or its own ID. But I think for the static application, I want to try to keep it very simple. We can grow and expand upon that later. So let's say let's check first for the candidate. Let's say if the candidate, let's just check for the voter's registration. So voter's registration. If voter's registration contains context.sender. So this value, what I'm calling here, is just automatically populated when the users log in. So context.sender, meaning that like if I'm logged in as blockheads.testnet, I'm going to receive a string from this that says blockheads.testnet. So I'm going to put that in the comments for you guys. So context. Can't hit shift. Why is shift not working? There we go. Context.sender is equal to blockheads.testnet. So if it does contain context.sender, I mean, if the voter's registration is here, then we're not going to do anything. But actually, you know what? Let's just do this. So you're saying like if the voter's registration does not contain the voter, then we are going to first add the voter. So votersreg.set. We're setting the key, the new key, as the account name, and giving them a value of true. We're just going to add true to create the actual like dictionary. So if it does not contain it, we're first going to add their name to it. After we add their name, we're also going to run another conditional statement saying if the candidate registration does not, so at the exclamation point, contain the candidate, so if it does not contain the candidate, first we're going to add it. So we're going to say if it does not contain the candidate, we're going to say same thing. So candidate reg dot set candidate comma 1. We're just gonna, since we're adding this new registration, this new candidate in this one voting function, we can assume that once they call the add vote function, they're going to receive their very first vote if we're just adding it for the first time. else, meaning like if they are in the voter's registration, we are simply just going to say we're going to create a temporary variable called current count. So current count is equal to candidate reg dot get sum. We're going to retrieve the value from this key. So candidate, and then we're going to add one to that value. So current count is equal to current count plus 1. Then we're going to say candidate reg dot set candidate. So we can call it candidate Ron or something. We're setting Ron with the value of the current count. So we're saying current count is equal to current count plus 1. Meaning that like we're just adding 1 to this old value. So and replacing that old value or this new value, this new current count into the value for this key. So if there's 1, we're gonna get 2. What we're gonna return. So I think that's everything, honestly. And we can add some like cool messages to go along with this, so we can actually see what's happening. So we're gonna say if it does contain, if it does not contain, if it does contain, what's gonna happen. I also need to add another like condition just in case. Sorry, so before I even add the messages, let's say else. So we're adding an else for this if statement. So else voter, so meaning like if the voter registration does contain the current sender, we're simply just going to, well, we can essentially just like run what's in here again, except we don't have to like set the we don't have to set a new user, a new account, or a new voter. So just copy this, paste this, because we're all assuming that like once this function is hit, we're adding the vote, right? We just have to make sure that all of this gets sent. I should probably even like just house this in another function, but for now I think it's okay. So I'm just copying and pasting what's in here and placing it in here. Oh no, wait, that's actually wrong. Okay, clip this stuff. Okay, so I can clip that out of the video. So okay, so we have to add our else statement. So meaning like the other condition if the voter has voted before, so if they do exist within this register. So else, we just give them a message saying logging log. You have already voted. So let's run through all this again, make sure we're all good. So export function add vote. We're accepting a string, returning a number. We have to return a number. Actually, kind of forgot about that. So return the candidate reg, get some candidate. Cool. Okay. So let's make sure we run through all of this again. So we have export function add vote. We're accepting a candidate's name and returning some number, meaning the number of votes they currently have. We are checking if the voter exists within the voter registration. If they do not exist within the voter registration, we're going to add their name to the list. And then we're going to say if the candidate registration does not contain the candidate, we're going to set the candidate and give them 1 vote. Otherwise, if they do exist within the candidate registration, we're going to pull out their current number of votes, add 1 to that, adding this new voter to it, and then setting that new value to the candidate's key. Otherwise, should the voter exist within the voter registration, we're just going to give them a message saying you've already voted. Then after all this is done, no matter what, we're just going to return the number of votes that the candidate has. So this is our first contract call. So what we do from here, we're going to take this name and we're going to move my little face. Going to go utils.js and place it in the change methods array as a string. So what this does, it makes it public for us to use and be able to call throughout our code. And also, the difference between change method and view method is that view method will just retrieve some information from the blockchain and display it for you or display it for you to use, while change method actually adds or removes something from the blockchain. I guess not necessarily remove, but it will add or modify the information on the blockchain. So hit save here. Hit save. Go back up to utils or main.ts. I'm gonna hit save. Every time you save, the main.ts file is just gonna rerun and create a new browser, so you don't have to like go back to your browser. Just wait a minute. So it opens up a new instance of your application. Inspect. To call your function to see if it actually works, what we're going to do is we're going to say await. Await window dot contract dot add vote. So this is an asynchronous function. Every contract call you make is going to be asynchronous, meaning that you have to write await or write it inside of an async function for it to work. The parameter you're going to pass in here is actually going to be an object with the name that you gave your property, so candidate. So candidate, you can add multiple properties if you want, just separate them by a comma. Let's just put in a dummy name. Let's just say, I'm just going to actually, let's just put a nope. Let's just give nope a vote. So nope. Let's see if there's anything I'm missing. We should get a number back, meaning the number of votes that nope will have at the end of this. Let's see what happens. So we have one vote for nope. So let's just try again. Let's see what happens if we try again. There we go. So there's a receipt.
Nature is amazing.
And there's our message saying you have already voted, and we can see that the vote for nope is still only one, meaning that like no new vote has been added. So there we go. That's our add function, our add vote function. So now I actually think what would be useful is to create a function that allows us to retrieve the votes that the candidate has. Also, yes, my hair did change. I'm wondering if you guys even noticed that. Moving on.
Nature is amazing.
Let's see, I'm going to say export function get votes, candidate, and string. Say what I'm going to return. I'm going to return I-32, which is just a number. Let's add the little braces, and we're going to first check if they even exist within a register. So I'm going to say if the candidate reg dot contains candidate, and we're going to do this. We're going to say return return candidate reg. Oh no. Candidate reg dot get some candidate. Else return 0. Well, that's not 0. There we go. Cool. So before I save this, what's the next thing we have to do? That's correct. To go to the utils.js. Also, I could not hear you if you actually said the answer, so I don't actually know if you were correct. But I'm going to pretend like you said the right answer. Let's see. So get votes. Save. Control tab, I think it is. Now now I have it saved in the utils. So I have it saved in the utils.js. So you say get votes here. And I'm gonna hit save in the main.ts, and let's just see if it actually works. So notice I placed that in the view method, or what was it? Yeah, view methods array. Because all I'm doing is just retrieving some sort of information from the blockchain. I'm not really adding or changing anything to it. So expect to move my little face. So wait, window.contract.get votes. Remember to put an object as a parameter. I'm going to keep saying that. Keep hammering that in. And then when I say, was it nope? Let's who we voted for. So, okay, and let's see what happens. So cool, Nope has 1. Now remember, we never actually voted for Ron yet, so Ron should not have any. So Ron, and Ron has 0. So there we go, we have our get votes method. We are making progress. Our buttons work. Our buttons are functional, but they are not complete, because what happens when we click it? You know, we have to wait. There's no notification that anything's actually occurring until we get this, you know, notification in our inspection tool. So other than that, like, I have no idea what's happening, right? We just click the button and nothing really shows up. So I think what would be useful is to disable the buttons after we click it to let the user know that something is actually occurring in the back end. So let's just, you know, jump in and do that. Just find a way to disable these buttons. So let's go into app.js. Go all the way up to this top line here where it says React, and type in a comma, type in use state from React. We're gonna go into our function, type in const, and we're gonna make an array, or we're gonna deconstruct the state. We're gonna say button state as our first variable. We're going to say for our change function, change button camel case button state. So if you aren't familiar with React hooks, this is definitely something I think you should really familiarize yourself with, because it's actually really useful. It's just a way to set a state inside of a function-based component. So use state. This use state function will allow us to set the initial value of button state, which we're going to set as false. Now the reason why I want to set this as false is, here's the reason. So let's go to candidate and say, let's just make something called button state is equal to button state. Yep. Copy this. There we go. Paste this in the other one. Hit save. Go back to candidate. Where are you, candidate? There you are. Now we're going to go over to here and say disabled is equal to some JSX this dot props dot button state. So this should be false, meaning that we should see no change here. But now let's go back into app.js, hit save. Let's change this to true, see what happens. There you go. Buttons do not work. I cannot engage with them. I cannot interact with them. So that's exactly what we want. So now we have to make a function that allows us to do that once we hit the add a vote button or submit button. So let's create a function called const mod button, or yeah, let's just do mod button for now. It's a fine name. Make an arrow function, and then all we're going to do is call set state. Oops, I'm sorry, not set state. What was I saying? Call the change function. So call change button state. So this first parameter is just like our variable. This second parameter is the function that we'll call to modify the value of that variable. This true is just the initial value of that variable. So that's all that's going on. That's all you really need to know right now. So let's keep pushing forward. This parentheses is the new value that I want to set as this value. So I'm going to type in just exclamation point button state, meaning that I'm going to set button state with the opposite value of true, which is going to be false. But also, inversely, if this were false, that's my initial value, and I were to run this function, the new value for button state would then be true. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if that doesn't make sense.
Nature is amazing.
So now I'm going to save this. It's going to call mod button here equal to mod, oh, there we go. mod button. Boop. Copy. Paste. Also, I hope you guys are familiar with like React lifecycle methods, because that plays a big role in the kind of what's happening. Just in terms of when you modify a state and how things re-render cycles, but for now it's okay. So let's just keep going. So candidate.js, and go to the add vote function we created, and just simply type in this props add what was the thing, mod button, and activate the function. So save. So no errors, that's good. So refresh. Oops, I did something wrong. Let's go to app. Right. Go back to app.js and change this to false. There we go. Pretty sweet. We can vote. We see the buttons disable, and then we get some message back saying that we either have voted or we didn't vote. I've already voted, so, or Ben has already voted, and we can't do anything else other than that. So now I want to be able to actually see like how many votes the candidates actually have, right? I mean, it's good that they aren't displayed here because I don't want my vote to be biased. I want to be able to go in blind and then see what everybody says right after that. So we're going to need a new contract call for that, so we're not quite done with the contract functions. Sorry guys. So we're going to go to main.ts and do export function, call a function called didVote. It'll just be, it won't accept any parameters, you don't really need any. We're going to return what? We're going to turn a boolean. I want it to be true or false. So I'm going to return voters reg dot contains and context dot sender, meaning the account that I'm logged in with. And honestly, that's it. That's all we need to do. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. It's going to go back. I just hit save, so it's going to go back to the browser right now. So we just have to give it a minute. And cool, but we're not going to be able to use it yet just yet. So the thing we have to do now, after we make a new function in main.ts, we have to go to utils.js, and this one we're going to go to change methods and call didVote. Save that. Control tab. Cool. Go back here. Now we can actually be able to use it. So I'm going to see if this actually works. So I'm going to do a couple tests. We're going to see. Oops. Or call await window.contract. You know, I guess since I'm here, I actually have to type a window, so I could just say contract since I'm in the browser. Contract dot call or dot didVote, and that should be true. So it's true because Ben did vote. But let's log out. Let's log back in. Let's go to Dorian 121212. I don't think I've used that one yet. Server name's Dorian anyway. I don't like it. So window, or so contract did vote, and now we get false. So there we go. You can see we actually get boolean from that. So next, our goal should be to make this as pretty obvious for the user as possible, so the user doesn't have to do that much when they're actually interacting with the app. Meaning that, or I'm referring to that if the user has already voted, I wanted to make it very obvious that they can't vote again, meaning that these buttons are just going to remain disabled. So let's go back to our application, or I guess our code, and I'm going to go to candidate.js. We're going to add a few things that's going to make it very clear that the user can no longer vote. So I'm going to do constructor props, call super props. This state is equal to an object. So we're going to get vote state. So we're going to switch things up a little bit, so bear with me. So we're going to say this.props.button state will set our initial value for our state variable inside the candidate's component. We're going to create a function called already voted. So already voted. Inside this asynchronous function, we're going to create a variable called didVote. So that contract call we made earlier, we're going to actually utilize right now. Remember, it's an asynchronous function. Whenever we interact with our contracts, we're going to add a wait here so that the code doesn't continue to run without the needed value. Window.contract.didVote. So this might be a little bit confusing, but bear with me for a little bit longer. So let me explain what's happening here. So we say this.setState vote. Gosh, there you go. So this.setState vote state is now false. And we're also going to change one more thing before I keep going forward. So I'm going to go to app.js and change this to true, meaning that the default state of the button will be disabled until we can check whether or not that the user has already voted. I'm going to go back to candidate.js. And what we're saying here with this already voted is that if we got that the user, if we got the Boolean value that the user did vote, meaning that they do exist in our register, this will receive a value as false, meaning that the button will stay disabled. But if they did not vote, this will receive a value as true. Remember that we have this exclamation point, kind of inverting that. Activating the set state feature, and changing the state and like changing the button state to no longer disabled. So moving forward, we're going to utilize the lifecycle hooks to check whether or not these users have voted. We'll use lifecycle hooks to actually call our already voted function. So component did mount will be the very first one we create. So in the component did mount, we're going to call this dot already voted. Just activate the function. So now if I go back to my application, I should see, yeah, so these are no longer changing. It should say, yeah, that's fine. So nothing here is changing because Ben already voted. Let's switch Ben to another user and see what happens. Who do I not? Let's do Tom Snake Juice. If you know what Snake Juice is, I'm going to be very happy about that. Make you a true Parks and Rec fan.
This snake juice is basically rat poison.
There we go. Okay, so the mistake I made earlier was just to change this from, previously we had it as, I'm going to do Command Z. Previously we had it as this props button state, which is automatically set to true, which means that the disabled property of the button is set to true, meaning that the button is disabled. So here, I'm going to revert that back. I'm setting this to the state variable, which receives its initial value from the property button state, but then that initial value can be changed within the component itself to be false or true. Now, what about this? So this.props.mod button, when I hit the button to actually vote, what's going to happen is, so I actually hit the button to actually vote. I want to actually create something that's going to monitor that property change, or else these buttons aren't going to change their state right away. So I'm going to create something called component did update. We're going to keep an eye on the previous props. So again, this does require kind of like an understanding of lifecycle hooks. I won't go too deep into that, but if you need to kind of do some research on it, this is lifecycle hooks for class-based components. Just to give you an idea of what to research. So if previous props is not equal to this.props, now what does this mean? This means that like if the old props are different than the new props, then we're going to execute some code. So we're going to say this.setState vote state is true. So why am I doing this, right? So we have one function that checks whether or not the user has previously voted at all. And now we have this, and that's going to determine whether or not the button remains disabled or becomes active after a few seconds of loading. This latest feature we just added assumes that the user did not vote, meaning that the button will load, become active, and then once we call this.props.mod button, it's going to change the state variable in the top level app.js file, and then bring it down and change the props in the candidate.js file. And then this, which monitors the change in that props, will change the state here, causing a re-render cycle, re-rendering the buttons to be disabled. So I know that was a lot, but again, that's just the idea of lifecycle hooks. So I save it. Tom Snakejuice has not voted yet. I'm going to click on Leslie Nope. So now the buttons are disabled. Something you did forget to add is like a message getting that like we have actually voted. It's actually, you know what, let's do it right now. We retest this. So let's go up to main.ts. Let's go to just here. Let's say logging log candidate added, and thank you for voting. Here we're gonna say logging. This logging log is just like a essentially just like console log in TypeScript. So logging log, thank you for voting. Right, we have an instance whether the candidate actually exists or not, and two different messages based off of that. So it's going to re-render. We have to change our account again, see switch over to another account, and then see if that little button trick we added works. So good news is now these buttons are disabled. We can't interact with them anymore. So that's actually kind of what we want. Let's go here. Join Donna. There we go. So I don't think Donna's voted yet. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit obsessed with Parks and Rec.
You don't even know one thing. I didn't even say one thing, and then she asked me the whole thing, and I didn't even do it once.
Let's send a vote to Ron, I think. So Ron. And thank you for voting. Ron exists in our system, which means that we have this message saying thank you for voting. And our button is now disabled. If we refresh the page, our button remains disabled. So that's great. That's almost everything we want. We need one more feature, and that feature is to show off the totals for our two candidates. You guys are awesome. You guys have stuck with me this far, and you guys have stuck through my craziness. So let's keep going. Let's keep pushing through. We only have one more feature to add, and that feature is to display the total result after the user has done voted, or to show it or to display a result if the user has previously voted. We don't want to display right now because we don't want to bias the vote if they never voted before. Never voted before. So anyway, so let's start off with adding a new state property. So we're going to say display vote. We're going to leave that as none. And before I even go further in that, let me show you what I'm planning. So I'm going to add list group and list group item. I'm going to pull these from React Bootstrap, and we go down here and just type in list group. Inside that, list group item. Inside that, I'm just type in 30. It's a placeholder. Hit save. So this is where our total votes are going to be. This is what it's going to end up looking like. And what I want to do is I want to say style display this.state.display vote. Save that. Right now this is set to none, so what we should see is nothing. Is that kind of cool? So all we're going to do is just change this value to block if we want to see it, or leave as none if we don't want to see it. We're going to set this, we're going to have to change this in two places. So we have our if statement here. So if the user did vote, then what's going to happen? So if the user did vote, it's going to be true. Section exclamation point makes it false, meaning that this won't execute and the button stays inactive, right? But what happens? What else can happen if they did vote, right? You can write an else statement. So this line will like not activate, meaning the button is going to stay unusable. And also, we're going to just simply change this set state display vote to block. So save that. So we just voted with Donna. So Donna should reveal the vote output, and it does. That's good. So if we go over to a different user, again, another Parks and Rec character, I love Jennifer. She's my spirit animal. So in this instance, the vote buttons become active, but we don't see anything. We don't see the totals, which is what we want. So now let's go back, and we have to add this set state in one other area, right? And that is right here. So we're going to say this dot set state display vote to block. So after they vote, I want them to be able to see the total output of their of the vote. So, and you know what? I'm going to do, before I even do this, I'm not going to put this here. I'm going to put this down here. Okay. So now I'm going to remind myself what. Yeah, there we go. So I want to see, like, so we're going to pull the values from get votes and actually place them into our total vote numbers, so we can actually see the total votes. Back in candidate.js, we're going to add a new state variable called vote total, and just place 2 dashes in here for now. I'm going to create a function called get total. It's going to be an async function. And we're going to pass into this async function is we're going to have inside here is going to say, we're going to set a value that will say let's just say total is equal to, let's just call this let. So let total equal to window dot contract dot get what was it called? Get votes. That's right. Okay. Get votes. Control tab, and inside of here we're going to pass an object called the candidate, and this dot props dot title will give us the name of our candidate. So now we have let total equal this value, and we're going to call, also going to add async to this so that the rest of this function doesn't run without getting the right instance back. So I'm sorry, not async, we'll call it await. There we go. So await. So once we actually have our value pulled and safely stored in total, our next thing is going to be to set this state variable with that new total. So this dot set state object, what was it called? Vote total. Vote total is total. So we're just placing this value in for that value. We're going to save that. We're going to call, we're actually going to call this function in the component did mount lifecycle a method. So get total. We can just call it here because it doesn't necessarily mean like displaying anything. We're just getting the value. So get total. And then inside of list group item, I'm going to call some JSX. Inside that JSX, I'm going to call a conditional statement saying that if this dot state dot my brain is like I have the memory of a squirrel, I promised you. Okay, so vote total is equal to this, meaning like, you know, 2 dashes. We're just going to display those 2 dashes. However, add a question mark, not the colon. Okay, there we go. However, if it's not equal to those 2 dashes, we are going to display this dot state dot vote total. Or I guess we could just put this dot state dot vote total. I don't know why I'm going through all this mess. So let's just do that. Sorry guys, all that crazy work. I think I added another. Get rid of that parentheses. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, we can just say this dot state dot vote total. So let's see. I should see that. Okay, so let's see what happens. So Jennifer's never voted yet, so that's fine. Let's log in. Let's go to Donna. Cool. So it looks like they're evenly matched with 2 and 2 votes. Let's go back to Jennifer and add a vote to Ron to see if everything is working properly. Vote. Thank you for voting. So we can refresh the page. And we have 3 votes for Ron and 2 votes for Leslie. So that did make me realize we should probably get rid of like one of these features. So let's go back to here. And let's actually just remove, I think we're okay with just refreshing a page. So here where it says add vote, we're not actually updating anything. So I don't think we're not getting the most recent update value. We'd have to call, another function that we create to actually update the value properly. So let's just get rid of this line here and save that. So next time we hit add vote, we're not going to immediately see the vote count for just that component that we hit the button on. Cool. But overall, I mean, like, this is our application. This is exactly what we wanted. This is pretty cool. Let's go to blockheads.testnet. I don't remember if Blockheads have voted or not. Great. So yeah, it seems to be working. It seems that we can actually add our votes. We can display our final values, and we have a fully functioning Blockheads voting application. We made it, and I hope you guys had fun along the way. I want to put out a challenge to you guys to make up your own version of the Blockheads voting app that we created today, and send me the link to your GitHub in the email in the description below. The top 3 submissions we get will appear in one of our upcoming Blockheads videos. As well, you guys might be able to win a prize if you're featured in this video. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for that. Like, subscribe, and comment below on what I can do to improve this content to make it better for you guys. And as usual, stay innovative, keep learning, and have a great day.
Where to first?
Your mother's butt.
I'm so alone.